we deconstruct. I'm going to demonstrate to you exactly how Jeremiah is a false prophet, but also the book of Jeremiah was not actually written completely by Jeremiah. If any parts of Jeremiah were actually written by him, it would have been the first few chapters of Jeremiah, which he would have been writing them in the mid to late 600s BCE, but before Israel fell upon the Babylonian captivity. It is the overwhelming majority of the work is written during the Babylonian captivity and then after the Babylonian captivity. So we are talking about over 100 years of writings that are attributed to Jeremiah. Now, the scholarly census is that Jeremiah was written over this 100 to 150 year time frame. Some of the evidence that demonstrates this is the fact that Jeremiah gets things wrong or has false prophecies. And I'm going to demonstrate how those are done. And also is writing at a time frame as events are happening, which the 70-year prophecy is during the time frame of a thing happening, but yet still he gets it wrong. I'm also going to show you how Jeremiah is not talking about Jesus. So right here in Jeremiah 25, which is most likely not written by Jeremiah, but someone who is actually experiencing the Babylonian uh, captivity, they write in verse 12, then after 70 years are completed, I will punish the king of Babylon and the nations, the lands of the Chaldeans, for the iniquity, says the Lord, making the land an everlasting waste. I will bring upon the land all the words which I have uttered against it, everything written in this book which Jeremiah prophesied against all the nations. Which is Jeremiah speaking in third person here? So this is one of the demonstrations that Jeremiah didn't write chapter 25 because it is stating which Jeremiah prophesied in the book of Jeremiah. So it's not Jeremiah saying this. For many nations and great kings shall make slaves even of them, and I will recompense them according to their deeds and the work of their hands. So it is demonstrating in this so-called prophecy that is most likely happening during the Babylonian captivity, which shows that Jeremiah didn't write it, that this person writing in third person is also stating that it will be 70 years that they will be in captivity. They also say that the kings will be put into slavery and they will be paid back according to the hand of their work. Now there's a problem uh, with this, but let me show you again how 29 double downs on. So Jeremiah 29 uh, also states, "For thus says the Lord, when 70 years are completed for Babylon, I will visit you and I will fulfill to you my promise and bring you back to this place. For I know the plans," and Christians love this part here. This is probably the only part of Jeremiah that they really know. "For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, plans for welfare and plans for evil." And Christians use like plans for good and plans for evil, to give you a future and a hope. Then you will call upon me and come and pray to me, and I will hear you. You will seek me out and find me when you seek me with all your heart. I will be found in by you, says the Lord, and I will restore the fortunes and gather you from all the nations. I will gather you from all the nations. I will gather you from all the nations, and all the places where I have driven you, says the Lord. I will bring you back to the place from which I sent you. Now, many Christians believe that this is a prophecy about Jesus as well, since he's saying that when he comes, he's going to gather them from all the nations. But there is even a better place that they get this from. And this will we will demonstrate how Jesus never gathered all the nations, nor Jesus could have fit the prophecy of Jeremiah, even though we know these are not prophecies. This again is doubling down on the 70 years, though. Now, one of the things that we do know is that the Babylonian captivity did not last 70 years. Now, if you were to go to a seminary school or something of that nature, or a Jewish school, they would tell you that the Babylonian captivity started around 608, 609 BCE. Well, that's an impossibility because in 609, 608 BCE, Egypt was in control of Israel, in control of the Levant. And it was a battleground between Egypt and the Neo-Babylonians at that time frame. But they were under Pharaoh Nechos. And so they were not under Babylonian captivity in in 609 or 608. We know that the Babylonian captivity did end. The decree was given around 538. So in order to be 70 years, it would have to be 608, 609 time frame that they came under Babylonian captivity. But based on every record that we know of, the Babylonians didn't conquer through Nebuchadnezzar, did not conquer the Levant until around 587. 587. Some scholars even see it happening later than that, around 535, right? 585. So we actually only have the Babylonian captivity happening about 40 to 38 years, which then makes the Jeremiah prophecies a lie. Because one, we've demonstrated how writing in third person, it wasn't Jeremiah, and most likely written by someone who added it to Jeremiah during the Babylonian captivity. And since 70 is a nice round number, and it makes like it works with the 7 days of creation and the 70 years or the 70 weeks or something of that nature. Forgive your brother 7 times 70. Those things seem to work in biblical numerology. So 70 was added, even though the actual time frame of Babylonian captivity was only about 40 to 38 years. So that would make the writers of Jeremiah false prophets and fake history makers. Now to the Jesus part of it all, where he says that he would gather up all the nations. When did Jesus gather up all the nations? But let's dig into Jeremiah 33. Because see, here in Jeremiah 33, we find out who is the person that's supposed to bring about all the nations, bring all the nations back together. But we also find out that this never happens in history and that this is a false prophet and that Jesus wouldn't fit this anyway. So it says from 14 to 18. Behold, the days are coming, says the Lord, when I will fulfill the promise I made to the house of Israel and to the house of Judah. In those days and at that time, I will cause a righteous branch to spring forth from David, and he shall execute justice and righteousness in the land. When did Jesus execute justice and righteousness in the land? Now, I know you're going to say there's some spiritual to that, but hold on. There's a problem with that being something spiritual, right? In those days, Judah will be saved and Jerusalem will dwell securely. And this is the name in which is called the Lord is our righteousness. For thus the Lord, for thus says the Lord, David shall never lack a man to sit on the throne of the house of Israel. You see, it is a man sitting on the throne in the house of Israel that will bring peace to Jerusalem. That's how Jerusalem will dwell securely. It is a man sitting on the throne that will execute the justice and the righteousness in the land. This is something that's supposed to actually happen, not some ethereal space odyssey spiritual thing. This is a real thing that's supposed to happen. And in my presence, to let's say, and sorry, and the Levitical priest, I skipped a line, and the Levitical priest shall never lack a man in my presence to offer burnt offerings, to burn cereal offerings, and to make sacrifice forever. So at the same time that there's supposed to be a man sitting on the throne of David, there's also supposed to be Levitical priests who will constantly be doing sacrifices, and the sacrifices will never end because it's a sacrifice forever. Even at that time frame, they weren't sacrificing. So this was supposed to be a prophecy of someone who's going to sit on the throne of David, and the Levitical priest line was going to be there. It's never going to end, and they will continuously sacrifice. Jesus died. Sacrifices stopped happening. There was no sacrifice since 70 CE. The Levitical priest did not sacrifice Jesus. The sacrifices can only be done by Levitical priests, but it was the Romans who sacrificed Jesus, well, condemned Jesus and killed Jesus at the behest of the Sadducees and the Pharisees, not the Levitical priests. So Jesus wouldn't even be a suitable sacrifice because he doesn't fit the description of what a suitable sacrifice is. So he doesn't sit on the throne of David from the line of David. He's from a line that's banished from ever sitting on the throne. It's ain't about Jesus, and it's a bunch of false prophecies. So always remember, you have to free yourself to be yourself, because